Yeah, and I think kind of just going back to, the super basic income thing that we did, even for me, I came into like crypto relatively late, probably like 2019, 2020. And for me, it was kind of like interesting to see from our student base, our students aren't into Web3, most of them are just kind of like plain old mainstream average people on the street.
Yeah.
But, when you kind of can frame NFTs or crypto in a way that actually makes sense to them, it is that kind of learning experience as well, because I do see that kind of a lot of NFT projects do miss the kind of ideas of like why it's important as NFTs versus say just digital art. And I feel like a lot of the kind of decentralization isn't really framed in that kind of way that makes sense to a more mainstream audience at the moment. It feels very still technical. And I think there's this kind of big gap. There's 90% of people, I'd say, that don't care about crypto, don't care about Web3, don't care about NFTs. They maybe are passive on it. They're not like actively haters or actively pro it. But I think that story of like why everyone is in this space is kind of being missed, because we're in the space, we know the benefits, we know why it's important to us. But I feel like that communication to a more mainstream audience hasn't really kicked in yet.
Yeah.
And, you know, we tried to do a little bit of that with super basic income, and it did convert a few people who were like, I had no idea about crypto, I didn't understand the benefits of it. I see why you're doing it now. And um, it was trying to frame it in a slightly different way that a lot of people hadn't seen before. So I think for me, it was kind of like a bit of a learning, even for me, of like what works well to get a more mainstream approach to crypto or Web3, and what would actually make sense for an average person to be interested in this space, and like what would sell them on this really. So even for me, it's like I'm constantly learning about this stuff and constantly trying to make what we do better and appeal to as many people as possible.
So, what do you see the future of SuperHi as?
So we see Web3 being a kind of key component of what we do going forwards. We're building out a lot of things right now to basically add the same kind of principles of decentralization and super basic income in there. The transparency is a big part of what we want to do. The decentralization and letting people have ownership over this platform, essentially trying to make the students run the school in a way. So we don't want it to feel like it's at this kind of like SuperHi and students and it's very separate. But we have a lot of people in our community at the moment who love what we do and want to get involved as well. So maybe the future is towards the DAO kind of model, but I don't think we're quite there yet. But we want to layer all these kind of like Web3 principles really into what we do. It might not be using the exact crypto techniques right now, but layering that kind of like transparency, laying that kind of idea of decentralization and ownership as part of what we do as well. And basically, what would a art school or a creative school look like if it was built on crypto is kind of where we're trying to go.